It's finally happened. The BYD Seal in Australia has finally gotten the version 1.4 update, which brings it in line with Seals in other markets such as Europe and the UK. And this update brings a whole plethora of changes to the Seal, so much so that it makes it almost like driving a completely different car. So instead of going through the entire list, I've had a bit of time to play around with it. So in this video, I'm going to go through what I think are the top 5 changes that this update has made to my BYD Seal in this episode of Beyond EV, your home for everything BYD. Hi everyone, David here from Beyond EV, and if you watched my last video, you would have mentioned that I was going to be offline for a little bit, but news in the BYD world moves thick and fast, and I had a bit of time to play around with this update, and I felt I had to do a video on it because it's a pretty big deal. This update completely changes the interface and how the car operates for a user, and I criticized the interface quite a bit in my first review of this car, the 10,000 kilometer owner's review. Click the link up in the corner to view that if you haven't seen it yet. And this update addresses pretty much all of the criticisms I had of this car's interface. But there are 5 changes in particular that I think just outshine all the other ones and make this a completely different car to drive. So what are they? Well, let's start off with number 1, and that is the brand new interface layout with customizable buttons. So the first major update that's taken place is not a completely new UI, but they've made enough changes to it to make it even more user-friendly. And the big change is this row of shortcuts that you see along the bottom. This wasn't here before, and I'll overlay what the old interface used to look like. It used to only be a couple of buttons, but now you can see the AC controls, the home screen, rotate screen controls, and you can change the temperature for driver and passenger side. To access these buttons, you usually had to swipe up. No longer. It's now on the screen all the time, so you can just touch whatever you want to touch to get to it. You don't have to swipe up or down or left or right to get to it. It's all here on the home screen. Now, all of these buttons are customizable, which is even better. And to customize them, all you have to do is long hold the button and you'll get to pick from a number of different customizable button options, and you can even change the layout and the position of where they are. So if I was to hold down this one, you will see these are the general control functions, which you can apply to the quick start bar below. You can even activate particular apps. So if I wanted to activate navigation, settings, phone, or the media center, I can apply this button to this bottom row, and it doesn't matter what screen I'm in, I can push the button to open up the navigation app at any time. Now, I've got this set up the way I want it, and what I have on my home screen on the right-hand side is the home, back, and rotate screen button. These are buttons that are closest to the driver and something that I'll probably use most often. In the middle, you've got driver and passenger side temperature control. Here you've got seat adjustment, which I'll touch on a bit later. The settings screen, so I can actually open up the settings screen from here. This one activates the heated and cooled seat screen, as well as the rear demister screen. This one is a quick select for the front demister, although I could probably do without this button and change it to something else because there is a button in the center console that does exactly the same thing. Same with the fan on or off. I will probably change that because there's another button for that. And I've got a recent tasks button, which is like opens up all the current open app screens that you have open. Now I've moved these to the far side because these are the ones I will likely use the least. Mostly because I already have existing buttons here, and recent tasks, I don't really use that at all. So this thing absolutely changes the way the user experiences the BYD Seal for the better. It is a really good change, and it addresses one of the main pet peeves I had in my original 10,000 kilometer owner's review, which is how difficult it was to get to the seat adjustment screen, which is number 2 on my list for top 5 features of this update. So seat adjustment, memory seat adjustment in particular, you think it would be pretty easy and intuitive. Most cars have physical buttons somewhere around the door, which you push 1 or 2 to change the seating position for whoever's driving. But in the BYD Seal, it's done through the infotainment screen. And before this update, you had to navigate through 4 screens to get to the seat adjustment screen. It was quite a pain, and I mentioned it in my original 10,000 kilometer review video. And one of the solutions I said is they should make a quick select button on the home screen where you can just go straight to the screen. And you know what? BYD have listened, and that is exactly what they've done. This button right here is now the only button I need to push to get to the memory seat screen. And I've got my 2 positions, 1 and 2. So I just need to select 1 or 2 depending on who is driving the car. And I can readjust my seats. And if I hold down position 1, it will save the current position to position 1 for later use. So they've cut it right back down. It used to be 4 menu presses. This is how you used to had to get to the screen. You had to push settings. You then had to go to vehicle. You then had to go to seats, and then you had to go to seat adjustment. That is the original method you needed to do to get to this screen. Not anymore. 1 button, change position. Absolute game changer. So this, I believe, is the second best feature that we're receiving from this update. Now, let's go on to number 3. Number 3 on my top 5 features of the version 1.4 update is the new auto start feature. And I say auto start, not auto start and auto off, because I use the auto start, but not the auto off. And I'll explain why in a minute. But to show you what auto start does, I just now need to go up to my car, unlock the door, and as you can see, it started the car. All I need to do now to start the car is just unlock the door. It saves the best part of about 5 seconds out of my life. But you know what? It's all about the user experience and streamlining that experience and not having to start the car. I can just unlock the door, walk in and drive off. That is an improvement. Now, I mentioned before, I only use the auto start. I don't use the auto off. And what that does is the opposite. As soon as I open my door, it automatically turns off the car. Now, I don't use the auto off because there are times where I stop the car and get out of the car and I don't want to have the car turned off. So I think it can be a little bit clumsy to have that on. There are times where I've got people in the car or want to keep the car on to keep the AC running and things like that. And I don't want to have it turn off on me as soon as I unlock the door. So I don't use the auto off feature. I only use the auto on feature. And so far, it has been really, really good. And again, like I said, streamlines the user experience with this update. So that's number 3. Now, time for number 4. Number 4 on my top 5 features of this version 1.4 update is the new layout for the Android Auto screen. So before, Android Auto would be full screen. It would just take up the entire screen. But now, after this update, it keeps the status bar up the top and the shortcut menu along the bottom on the screen. So it's made the Android Auto screen a little bit smaller, but in my opinion, better. So if we go into the Android Auto screen, you'll see exactly what I mean. And this is what it looks like now. So this used to fill up the whole screen, but now you've got the status bar across the top and the shortcut menu across the bottom. So again, like I said before, previously to activate or utilize the AC, you needed to swipe up from the bottom and then make adjustments, or you needed to swipe up, hit the fan button to get into the AC screen, and this whole screen just disappears. Not anymore. Now I can adjust the AC and make changes to it, make changes to my seating, turn on seat heating and seat ventilation without having to navigate away from the Android Auto screen. Number 2, and this is probably one of the biggest pet peeves I'd never mentioned on my original 10,000 kilometer review video, and that's the fact that for some reason on the BYD Seal, Android Auto doesn't display the time up here. On every other car that I have driven and used Android Auto in, they usually display the time here. And the only way to actually see the time previously before this update was on the driver's dash cluster up here. But as I also mentioned in my 10,000 kilometer review video, I couldn't actually see this time from my drive's sightline because where I have my seat, the steering wheel blocks the time. So I always had to like lean over or look underneath to actually see the time. I couldn't do it. But now because the status bar's there, look at that. I can now see the time on my screen. So that is another problem solved. And yes, it's not full screen, but this is a much more user-friendly user interface to deal with and is an improvement, a vast improvement from what it was before. And lastly is the Google Maps integration with the native navigation software. So previously, the native navigation software on this was, I would say, pretty useless because you couldn't get live traffic and it wasn't very intuitive in my opinion. But now it's connected to Google. Oh, there's actually 2 updates that have occurred to the navigation, which makes it a much more useful feature than what it was previously. So let's open it up. And you see this right here, this little Google symbol. This now uses your 4G connectivity that automatically comes with the car, and that's what you use to receive updates. It uses Google Maps to search for whatever it is your destination is. And it now updates with live traffic and construction, roadwork updates, things like that. So this native navigation is now, I would say, nearly on par with Android Auto. It still lacks a little bit. There's, in terms of traffic and live update features, it's not as fully featured as Waze or Google Maps in Android Auto, but it's close. The real benefit with Google Maps integration with this native screen is now you can actually use maps in portrait mode, and it's actually useful. So if I switch this to portrait mode, I can now navigate a destination and I can actually see further ahead of my route, which if you're using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you can't use that in portrait mode. So in my opinion, portrait mode was pretty useless until now, because using the native Maps app in portrait mode is, I think, the best way, that's the best reason to use portrait mode. But now with Google Maps integration, it actually makes the maps useful, so you actually want to use it. And I've actually used this a couple times and it's pretty good. Now, second update to this, call this 5.5 in my top 5, is now there's EV route planning built into this map as well. So not only is it Google Maps integrated, it will now find the best route for you to take to your destination based on your charging requirements. So it will seek out charging locations along the way for long drives and plan a route for you to best get to your destination with as little charge as possible, either little stops or as little charge time as possible. I haven't had a chance to utilize that yet, but from what I'm hearing, it's not bad. I'm not saying it's probably better than Tesla's, but it's much, much more useful than what it was previously. This feature still sticks around, which is your live electric range, which shows you a paint map of how far you can actually drive from your current location based on your current state of charge. It's telling me I've got 412 kilometers left on my dash, which is correct. And this is how far I can drive on roads from where I am now before hitting a flat battery. So this would be 412 kilometers by road in all directions, how far I can actually get. That's pretty cool. Not sure how useful it is. Might be good for sort of initial route planning, but I think it's more of a gimmick more than anything. I think the EV route planning would be the much more useful feature. And next time I go for a long drive in this car, I'm definitely going to try and use it and see how it works out in the BYD Seal. So that's it. That's what I believe are the top 5 features that have come with the new version 1.4 update in the BYD Seal. And I've only been here for about 10 minutes, but as you can see, the sun has gone down, so it's time for me to wrap things up and head home. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Are there any other features that I didn't mention that you would put in your top 5? Let me know down in the comments. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, subscribe to Beyond EV for more BYD related videos. I've got plenty more headed your way. As I mentioned before in my last video, I am supposed to be offline at the moment, and I wasn't supposed to release a video this week, but like I said, news comes thick and fast, so this one's coming out. I likely won't have one for next week, but unless BYD comes out with another massive piece of news, I may actually put another video out. But my plan is to have my next video out by mid-June, and you want to stick around for that one. It is massive, massive bit of news for the channel. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.